One of the biggest advantages that you can have in fantasy football is finding the next key breakout players, the players who thrust themselves into the top 12 at their position. So today, we're going to talk about 6 different players who we think could be the next breakout RB1 in fantasy football. Now, fellas, when we talk about breakout RB1, we are not talking about the overall RB1. We are talking about the players who can finish top 12 at their positions, right? The key guys that you're kind of looking for in previous years are the Javonte Williams, the Chase Browns of the last 2 years, right? So we're going to talk about 3 players who are currently going, between RB 15 and 30 at the position. And then we'll actually talk about some of the guys who are going outside of the top 30 that could make some noise this year and finish top 12. But Cameron, I'll let you start first. Who's the first player you want to bring to the table?
Yeah, I talked about him last year when we did this episode first. I'm talking about him this year. Not wrong, just early. TreVeyon Henderson. He was, from an efficiency standpoint, very good last season. Had over 5 yards per carry. I know what you're going to say. It was mainly because he was boom bust. I get it. But he did with only 100 carries, had 911 yards, had 10 touchdowns, 3 half PPR games above 27 half PPR points. I understand Ramondre was out for a couple, but at the running back position, that's not something you can count out. But it also shows me this guy has an elite ceiling, right? The fact that he can put up 3 games in his rookie season over 27, fantasy points, and the fact that he only played 4 games with over 50% snap share, that's pretty good, right? Every single other game is below 50%. He played just 45.9% all of last season. He had 35 receptions on 42 targets. When Ramondre was out there, didn't have nearly as much in terms of the receiving game, but the assumption is, the bet is, we're getting better in pass protection. We're going to be out there more on passing and downs, right? This is the same regime that took him. They're coming off the Super Bowl. I assume we're going to see some of the same, but with Ramondre in a contract year, as far as guaranteed money, right? He's still technically under contract, but he's not guaranteed any money after this season. I think we're going to see more TreVeyon, especially as the year goes on. And with that efficiency, that home run hitting ability, I don't know. I'm super excited about TreVeyon Henderson. He's my 3rd most drafted running back right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too excited because I was in on him last year, but I'm expecting a big year too from TreVeyon.
And to avoid repeatedly making this Jahmyr Gibbs comparison, which everybody beat into the ground last offseason, to be fair, I think we're kind of looking at this. We could be looking at the same thing going into this year, right? Where you got the flashes from Jahmyr Gibbs at the end of his rookie season, middle of his rookie season, really 23, 27, 24.7, and then cooled off over the back half of the year when you had David Montgomery there, obviously. But Ty, do you think it could be a similar case this season where, the draft capital is relatively similar, year 1 going into year 2 with them under the belt, both kind of going in this RB 15 to 20 range? Where are you at on TreVeyon? How confident are you that he can kind of shake the Ramondre Stevenson, have the Ramondre Stevenson role kind of shake his way a bit more this year?
Yeah, we've talked about this backfield a little bit so far this offseason, and I've been the most pessimistic. That doesn't mean I'm completely out on TreVeyon. And I think this kind of leads into this point of what this episode is really about, where we're more so asking the question, is there a path, rather than will this for sure happen? Will this happen or not? And so I can sit here and say, I still think Ramondre still plays a key role in this offense, but I also have to acknowledge that there is a reality, that there is a possibility where TreVeyon does take enough work away from Ramondre to where TreVeyon, with his explosiveness, with the ability to catch passes, out of the backfield, he can crack that top 12. We will debate for the rest of summer, how likely will that happen? I'll sit here and say it's about a 35-40% chance that it could happen. But at the same time, there's money on the line for Ramondre. And again, there's so many different facets to this. But like I said, we're just dissecting, is there a path? Is there a reality for these guys to crack the top 12 if things fall in their favor? And if you sit there and go, yeah, that can't happen for TreVeyon, I'm sorry, history would tell us otherwise.
Yeah, I think you touched on a key piece there, Ty, of is the path there, 1, but 2, can you actually make the upside case for these players to get there? Because it's not like like I'll spoil a player we aren't going to talk about, a player like Quinshon Judkins we're not going to talk about. As much as I love Quinshon Judkins, I don't think personally on the Browns offense he has the upside to get to a top 12 running back, simply just based on the environment of the offense alone. With the New England Patriots, we know how explosive this offense can be, especially now that you add a viable perimeter threat in AJ Brown. You get Romeo Doubs in there too, who can play a nice role in the receiving game, but it can open things up all the more in the running game on top of what was already an incredibly efficient season for TreVeyon Henderson in year one. So, like you said, it's not a guarantee, but is the path there? Yes. Is there the necessary upside there? Yeah, there totally is. So I think I side more with Cameron here. I definitely lean on the optimistic side for TreVeyon Henderson. I don't recall where he is exactly in my drafted running backs, but he's definitely towards the top of that list for me as well. Ty, I'll kick it right back to you because this next player, Jeremiyah Love, he's being drafted right on the cusp of this top 12 range, but I mean, after what we saw from Ashton Genty last year, and even the history of players that were trying to push into the top 12 range, if you even want to look at his teammate at the wide receiver position, Marvin Harrison Jr., it's not a guaranteed lock that these guys are automatically breakout stars right away in their rookie year. So go ahead and make the case for Jeremiyah Love.
Yeah, it's low-hanging fruit that we're one spot from being a top 12 running back in drafts, but I really don't care because I know the talent that is that is Jeremiyah Love. And you brought up the Ashton Genty component and kind of argument of this. That's exactly where I'm kind of coming from on this. We know that Love will get volume here in Arizona. And if Ashton Genty can be the running back 13 overall in half PPR in Vegas, like Jeremiyah Love can still crack the top 12, even if it's not league winning, even if it's not finishing top 3, top 5. And that's why the running back 13 ranking is so intriguing to me, because I'm like, there is still a little bit of upside to get here, right? Where he can crack that top 10, even just because he is like that dynamic playmaker for this Arizona offense. And I want to also just address this piece of the Jeremiyah Love argument. LaFleur came out the other day and talked about the backfield, and he's like, I kind of want to ride the hot hand and all that kind of stuff. And then you're looking at James Conner maybe getting more involved than you'd want, Tyler Algier, who they signed, and all that sounds scary on the surface. But I want to just ask you this question: who is the most talented running back in that room? Like, that's as simple as it really needs to be. Now, that doesn't mean that Jeremiyah Love won't have a bad game. That doesn't mean that there's going to be consistently like 20 carries a game for Jeremiyah Love. There may be some volatility when it comes to the amount of touches he gets week to week because of his performances. But Jeremiyah Love is going to get the most chances to show that he can be the hot hand of this offense. And so now we get into this volume argument where you've got Trey McBride in this offense. You have Marvin Harrison Jr. There are some big Michael Wilson fans out there. Don't no. I
will stand Michael Wilson this offseason, not because I love him, but because not enough people want to respect what he did last season.
Oh, come on. I might just drag the both of you guys into being anti Michael Wilson for the rest of summer. But Jeremiyah Love is going to, he's going to push over 200 carries. He might push 250 carries when everything is statted out according to my projections. And he's going to get receiving work. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to finish top 2 in terms of targets on this team, but he's going to get enough receiving work because this Arizona offense will try to feature him in more ways than one. When it's Arizona, you got nothing to lose. Try to showcase your guy.
So here's where I push back slightly, not because I don't think Jeremiyah Love can finish top 10 this year. I question what he can give you on a points per game basis. You even look at, like, we'll use the Ashton Genty example from last year, finished as the RB10, only 12.8 points per game, which was the RB17. Bijan Robinson in his rookie season finished as the RB12 overall. Again, only 12.8 points per game in half PPR formats, the RB17. So, Cam, I'll maybe ask you the question, is there room for a is there room, but where do you stand on the Jeremiyah Love piece here? Because on the one hand, yeah, I agree with Ty. I think the path is totally here, But yeah, just like Bijan Robinson in 2023, part of me wonders if there might be a little bit of a Tyler Algier problem that does cap his explosive upside in regards to racking up fantasy points in a hurry.
I think a little bit, but I think at the same time, he went 3. Tyler Algier hasn't been a part of this offense, right? I think that's part of the issue is like Algier had coming off a good season, right? We're going to keep giving him the ball. The hot hand thing made me excited for Jeremiyah Love because like Ty said, who's going to be the hot hand more than often in this offense? It's going to be Jeremiyah Love, right? Because he's going to be explosive. I think, too, the reason he's going as running back 13, the reason, I've been in on Jeremiyah Love is because we are getting so scared by these other first-round running backs that, we've been drafting as the running back 4, the running back 3, the running back 2, whereas Jeremiyah Love, we're actually drafting appropriately, right? We're drafting at probably with his median outcome. I also think, too, it's been, you look at the Cardinals this last season, you see, oh my gosh, they threw the ball a ton. That's because go look at who was running the ball for them. So like, I think that's a worry I'm going to kind of push away too, is I think they're going to run the ball a significant amount more. That's why you invest the 3rd overall pick in Jeremiyah Love. So I do see a path. The biggest thing for me, because I think he's going to be involved in the receiving game quite a bit too, is just going to be touchdowns. Can we get 12? Like if you can get 12 touchdowns from Jeremiyah Love, which I think is a stretch on this Arizona Cardinals team, I think we can have a top 10, top 7 type season for Jeremiyah Love. It's just how many touchdowns can you actually get? Because that's really what held Genty back, is he barely hit 10.
Bijan too.
Yep.
4 rushing touchdowns.
100%.
Only 8 total touchdowns in his rookie season.
So that's what's going to be the hang up, is how many touchdowns does he get? And unfortunately, that's the hardest thing to predict. And if you had to, find a median on the Arizona Cardinals, you're going to go lower than higher. So I still think he's a good pick where he's going. I like his odds to finish top 12. It's just the overall, like, can he be a top 5 guy? It just feels hard with the lack of touchdowns he's going to get.
And I guess where my skepticism comes in is, how do we quantify breakout, right? Mm-hmm. Because would you look at Bijan Robinson's rookie season at the RB9 overall and say 214 carries for 976 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns? Was that a breakout season for B? No, nobody would say that. And so I guess my concern is like, not that Jeremiyah Love can't finish ahead of this, but even with 86 targets in Bijan Robinson's rookie season, like we're talking about Jeremiyah Love getting receiving work, is the breakout upside capped? I think Jeremiyah Love could beat ADP. I'm just a little bit skeptical of how high is the breakout ceiling here. Because like you said, Cam, I feel like in order for it to truly feel like a breakout, we got to get to like 14.5 points per game with a top 7 running back finish bare minimum here. And that's where I push back a little bit. And I'm not as confident in the ecosystem of Arizona, but I get where you both are coming from in that regard as well. I'm curious to hear what other people think of Jeremiyah Love at his current cost, what to make of this Arizona Cardinals backfield, let alone offense this year. So let us know in the comments down below. And if you've already gotten this far into the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell as well, so you know when all of our newest content goes up. We're with you all off season long, prepping you to dominate and win your fantasy football leagues this season. I'll move on to another second-year running back. Cam Skattebo is the player that I want to touch on here. Before his season-ending ankle injury last year, the RB 10.5 PPR points per game, 14.5 half PPR points per game. Over the course of a full season, about 246 half PPR points per game. That's like knocking on the door of clear top 5 to 10 territory. 7 touchdowns in 8 games as well last year. And there's no other running back on this team that I'm really concerned about receiving the inside the 10, inside the 5 carries. Are you really concerned about Tyrone Tracy taking those? No. You could say Jackson Dart could definitely take those. Absolutely. But again, the New York Giants are an offensive ecosystem that I'm tending to trust a bit more this year. Maybe at cost, I'm not as excited to outright draft these players, but if Cam Skattebo can stay fully healthy this year with an improved offensive line, you added Francis Mauigoa in the draft to this offensive line. You've got year 2 Jackson Dart. You've got John Harbaugh coming in. You've upgraded multiple pieces of this offense. I'm confident the New York Giants can find themselves in scoring position where, yeah, Cam Skattebo is easily a double-digit touchdown running back in my mind next year. And I think the New York Giants are an ecosystem of an offense where I trust the efficiency to maintain for Cam Skattebo as well. I don't really want to touch on the receiving work too much. I think Tyrone Tracy could potentially play a factor there, but even at that, in 8 games, Skattebo is getting 4 targets a game, 24 catches on 32 targets last season. So if he stays healthy and he continues scoring touchdowns at the rate he did last season, like I find it hard to see a path where Cam Skattebo doesn't go knocking on the door of a top 12 running back this year. He might slide in at that RB 10, 11, or 12 spot come year's end.
Yeah. My thing is, I know he did a backflip, but man, it scares me. Like, it scares me so much. It's open dislocation of the ankle, a tibia fracture, and a ruptured deltoid ligament. Like, I'm no doctor, but that scares me.
Doesn't sound great.
And the way he plays of I need all the power I can get because my only move is to try and smash my head through your head, which to his credit worked last season.
He's really good at that.
It just scared me a little bit of how much work, like how long does it take to get back? Like I remember Tony Pollard, right? We were all 3 of us were in on Tony Pollard that season. He came back from that ankle injury. And it just felt like the year before. I mean, he felt untouchable before he got hurt. And then he came back, and we've had this same Tony Pollard for the last 4 seasons. Again, not saying that's going to happen to Cam Skattebo. That's just my worry is I know what we saw on the field. It was just such a small sample size. And then the injury scares me so much that's why I've been staying away. I don't know. I just can't get behind it. But I do understand the path of, hey, if he is the guy – and they're rolling with him, he showed, hey, I'm just going to keep finding the end zone. I mean, 7 touchdowns and the amount, just, limited amount he played is pretty impressive. So, yeah.
Any differing? Yeah, I was going to say, Ty, do you have any differentiating pushbacks from that? Because ironically enough, I do think the only thing in the way of Cam Skattebo is quite literally Cam Skattebo himself.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at the end of the year where we look back and we go like, preseason training camp videos that got us way overhyped for the wrong reasons. And it's like Allen Robinson one-handed catch is taking the first spot, but then Cam Skattebo backflip is number 2, right? Like that's really what this comes down to, right? Cam Skattebo should be coming back, being at least the most featured back here. Like you said, Tyrone Tracy probably going to figure in some role, but Cam Skattebo is going to be the guy to get the majority of the touches. It's just going to be efficiency, right? And efficiency really wasn't his game last year, but at the same time, maybe a scheme change with Matt Nagy coming in versus Brian Daboll. And
did you really just say that with a straight face?
I was going to say, like, oh boy, I didn't expect Matt Nagy to make his way into this conference. It's a necessary component to discuss, but there's a reason I didn't bring that up.
I'm just saying. Guys, I'm not saying that this offense is going to be spectacular. That's not what I was saying at all. Okay. But maybe instead of run, pass, we go pass, run, pass, right? Like that's all that I'm saying. Right. So I really have no gripes. I understand from a volume perspective, a path is there. It's going to be how much you tolerate in terms of the recovery and his play, right. At the beginning of the year, because it wouldn't surprise me if Cam Skattebo finishes out the year really strong, but at the beginning of the year, it's going to be how much can you tolerate the inconsistencies and trying to get back into playing shape.
Which, I mean, again, that's the entire counterpoint in all of this is how healthy is he coming into this season? We might need to do a draft at some point of like players who are almost being hurt by the rising stock of their training camp videos. And like, I worry Cam Skattebo probably could be a victim of that. But again, if he is fully healthy, if he's out there giving you what he at least provided last season, again, the upside is 100% there. And I think a lot of people are going to be willing to buy into that. And I'm even willing to buy into that. I've been snagging up a bit of Cam Skattebo at running back 19 myself. So based on what he provided last year, I do think the path is there, and I'm willing to throw a few chips at that. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog, where you can get into the game this season playing Pick'em. It's extremely simple. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more of your favorite players. For example, I'll pick the higher on Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Xavier Worthy. If I played $10 and got all 3 of them right, I would win $60 just by watching football. And that's the beauty of Pick'em. You can track your picks and your wins while you enjoy the game. Now, if you're not on Underdog yet, scan the QR code on your screen or use our code FELLAS when you sign up, because new customers will get $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5 on the app. Plus, Underdog will give you a free pick to use in your first entry. Again, that's code FELLAS over on Underdog. Now let's get you back to the rest of the show. So for the last 3 running backs I want to talk about here, fellas, we're going to start going down the draft board, because the guys like Javonte Williams, Chase Brown, weren't these guys going, in the top 20 range. They were going outside of the top 30 at their position. So I think it's important that we do talk about a handful of guys where some people might be like, really? You think the path is there for that to actually happen? But like, did anybody fully expect it with Javonte Williams last year? So they expected somebody out of Dallas. Did they fully expect it out of Chase Brown the year prior? Right? Like, we know the upside is there, but could they actually break into that RB1 tier? So Cam, I'll start with you. Who's the player you want to talk about going outside of the top 30 backs right now?
Yeah, I'm talking Rachaad White, and yeah, I totally understand. And to be fair, breakout RB1, if you want to hit me over the head with that one, because he's already technically been a running back 1 in his career, I get it. But from where he's being drafted, how low he's going right now at, what does that say on the screen? Running back 38. Yeah, that's for me. I'm excited about that. He's proven before he can be a workhorse back, right? He's had 272 rushing attempts and 64 catches in a season. I'm not expecting that this year, right? That's not what I'm telling you, is that all of a sudden he's just going to take over. But we're looking at a guy who still had, even 40 catches last year, dealing with a little bit of injury. Bucky Irving coming in, 57 targets. And so it's just, I don't know. I just think that the fact that he's going to be in Washington, Bill Krosky-Merritt was good, but he was more serviceable than good, right? There was a couple of plays where you're like, ooh, that looked really nice. But from week 6 to week 11, he never had a game over 4 yards per carry. So that's something Rachaad White can do as well. And the big thing that Bill didn't have that Rashaad's going to bring into this offense is receiving work. We're talking about a guy who had 9 receptions last year despite playing all 17 games. I understand Jayden Daniels is a rushing quarterback. Receiving work's going to be down a little bit, but that's how Rachaad White gets on the field. That's how he has a designated role. And if Washington starts to look like Washington did 2 seasons ago when Jayden Daniels was healthy, they're going to be a team that scores touchdowns as well. And so if you're on the field for these passing downs, if you're getting more and more work, which I think Rachaad White is going to as the season goes on, because I do think he's still a talented back. And I don't think him and Bill Krosky-Merritt are that different rushing wise, that when he gives you that receiving upside, he's going to see the field more often than not. He has the upside for touchdowns. He has the upside for receptions. It's just going to be how much rushing work can he actually get to propel him to get up and flirt with that running back 1 finish. I do think, injuries probably have to play a little bit of a factor to kind of give him over that hump, but I think he's at least in a spot that I can see the path coming from all the way back at running back 38.
Yeah, Ty, any upside elements you want to add here? I want to be careful with these guys where I don't be like, well, they're being taken at RB38 because of XYZ, right? Like, that's not, like, I think everybody knows why Rachaad White is being drafted as RB38, but what other elements do you think could take place here in order for the emergent RB1 finish to potentially happen this year?
I think something that comes to mind for me is just, it's kind of the island of misfit toys of this running back room. And it's not really going to take a whole lot for somebody to kind of like stand out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other, and what goes along with that is experience, right? Yes, Bill Krosky-Merritt had flashes, but in certain spots, certain opponents, all that kind of stuff. Rachaad White has shown in the past, like Cam referenced, like he has had productive fantasy seasons. It wasn't the prettiest, but he was able to do a job for Tampa Bay. And that's all that he really needs to do in Washington, right? We're not asking for the world. We're not asking the world of Rachaad White. They're just going to be asking him to do the job. If he do the job just well enough, he's going to kind of have a hold on the most valuable role in that backfield of just being the guy to carry the most, or to have the most touches.
Yeah, the backfield is ambiguous enough where I think you can get a value here on Rachaad White. You even look at his RB7 finish in 2023, right? He was tied for second in carries that season. He had just as many carries as Christian McCaffrey. He averaged 1.8 yards less per carry than Christian McCaffrey, but he scored 8 less touchdowns than him as well. But and again, I'm not trying to make a Christian McCaffrey comparison here, but in a world where nobody sees Rachaad White probably getting more than 230 carries this year, can we see Rachaad White get a bulk of the touchdown work with, again, a Washington offense that I think can find themselves in the red zone plenty this year? Do we see Rachaad White rack up a few more touchdowns this year? Do we see the receiving work maintain itself? Instead of 3.6 yards per carry, can we get 4.2 yards per carry, right? There's a bunch of different ways that we can make up for 272 carries going down to 220 this year potentially. And even that might be a lot for Rachaad White. But point being, there's a lot of ways in which we can nickel our dime to a top 10 finish. And Rachaad White has a multitude of different tools in this Washington offense, opportunities in this Washington offense in order to make that happen. Ty, I really like your pick here. If I didn't choose my player, I actually was probably going to choose this player. One of these Minnesota Vikings running backs, Jordan Mason, you really like.
Yeah, I could have gone Aaron Jones here, and I opted to go Jordan Mason just because we've seen Aaron Jones finish inside the top 12, and the fact that he's pretty much getting to the age cliff of just for him to take a pay cut to stay with Minnesota. I think that kind of explains everything you need to know. So when it comes to Jordan Mason, we talked about him pretty often last offseason just because a lot of people, we thought Aaron Jones was, or I shouldn't say we were pretty on board with Jordan Mason. Most people thought it's going to be the Aaron Jones show. And to a certain extent it was, because you look back over the year, obviously the stat line doesn't wow you, but there were moments where Jordan Mason was getting the high value touches of goal line and the short yardage and all those kind of things. And that's kind of how that's kind of like a cheat code to racking up touchdowns and fantasy points. And I think I shouldn't say all that we need, but the path for Jordan Mason to cracking that running back one status, obviously Aaron Jones needs to kind of get out of the way, right? So there's a contingency factor to it. But even if Jordan Mason becomes the clear defined goal line, third down, if he has a defined role, because it felt like throughout the year, Aaron Jones was kind of third down guy and then also the goal line guy. And Jordan Mason, the next game would be goal line. But if we can get Jordan Mason to be the defined goal line guy, the defined third down, whatever it is, give him a defined role that produces fantasy points, Jordan Mason, can make some noise and at for sure best a running back 42 ADP. And I want to just generally speak to just kind of wrap this up of just I don't think people realize how much better things can be for the Minnesota offense as a whole now that 9 isn't under center, right? We're not saying that they're Super Bowl contenders. We're not saying that they're going to win the division. Just simply going from really bad to maybe middle of the pack. That's all that you need. And this offense from a quality standpoint will be so much better. And that's going to make performances and fantasy better for Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison in the pass catching game, but specifically for Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones in the run game. And I think Jordan Mason, like I said, with his skill set being a bigger body or maybe a more physical runner than Aaron Jones, if he can, take hold of these high value touches near the goal line, and maybe we get a contingent upside of, hey, maybe Aaron Jones picks up an injury and he's out for an extended period of time like he was last year, good things can happen for Jordan Mason then.
That's the exact upside I wanted to make sure we touched on, because what happened with Javonte Williams and Chase Brown is that Chase Brown got a contingent upside loss of Zach Moss. And from there, he took stranglehold of the backfield and everything fell his way. Javonte Williams, Jaden Blue obviously didn't pan out, but Miles Sanders, season-ending injury right away in week 1. All of a sudden, it's the Javonte Williams show. And from a fragility standpoint, given the age of Aaron Jones and the history he has, the contingent upside here is, and I never want to wish injury upon a player. Don't hear what I'm not saying there, but the contingent upside for Jordan Mason has a higher probability of happening than a lot of the other guys that we're talking about here, right? So I agree. The offensive environment of Minnesota this year, I sound like a broken record, is just going to be better under Kyler Murray, right? And if Jordan Mason, like you said, can take a stranglehold, continue to take advantage of the high opportunity, high fantasy point value touchdowns specifically, if anything happens to Aaron Jones, Cam, that's exactly the case I would have made. Is simply the contingent upside here is too much, because if anything happens to Aaron Jones and he's out for the season, you instantly Jordan Mason becomes a top 15 back with top 12 upside.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me too a big part of it. I think Aaron Jones is, but then also it's just this offense. He's going to go as far as the offense is going to take him because he needs to be in positive game scripts. And that was one of the biggest issues last year is you're playing from behind constantly, right? Or you're at best, you're tied and you're not really in a positive game script where you can just hand it to turnaround hand Jordan Mason. But in his first 6 games last season, he had 15 carries, 9 carries, 16, 16, 13, 15. So they're willing to, and obviously Aaron Jones was hurt for those games, but they're willing to give him the ball in those situations. Dave Montgomery a couple seasons ago had 219 carries, a little over 1,000 yards, obviously had 13 touchdowns, but only had 16 receptions for 115 yards and finished as a running back 13. That feels attainable for Jordan Mason. Obviously, he would need a touchdown outlier season, but if you're in those positive game scripts, if you're scoring touchdowns, that's not crazy for the guy who's going to get all of the goal line work, even if Aaron Jones is in the game. So if you can get double digits from touchdowns from Jordan Mason and we can push 200 carries, which I don't think either of them is that insane for him this year, you could easily be flirting with that top 12 upside.
I'll wrap out with our last player. I'm guessing he'll probably be the lowest discussion. Maybe not. I actually don't know. Maybe he'll actually spark some controversy. I'll be curious to hear what people think in the comments about this player too. There's been a lot of discourse on the Twitterverse about Jonathon Brooks specifically. This is not a statistical argument whatsoever. Why? Because obviously as Ty has put on the graphics, 0, 0, 0, 0 in the RB 10,000.
Oh, let me clarify this, because we talked about Jonathon Brooks last week, and Cam was the one that decided, you know what, NA is not good enough for Jonathon Brooks. He was running back 10,000. So kudos to Cam on that one.
At any rate, the case for Jonathon Brooks is simple. It reminds me so much of Javonte Williams, right? Javonte Williams, the highly touted back coming into the NFL with opportunity in Denver, obviously struggles with injury through the first portion of his career. So it took him finding a new home in Dallas, but could Carolina be an improving enough of an environment where Jonathon Brooks, people are wishy-washy enough based on his injury history, based on the existence of Chuba Hubbard to say, I don't know. I'm not too interested in figuring out what Jonathon Brooks is all about. When coming out of the draft, people were having debates whether it was him or Trey Benson as the RB1, but for me, he was lockstep my RB1 coming out of that class the whole way. And when we did get flashes of him during his rookie season, before re-tearing his ACL, there was explosive flashes there that I think Jonathon Brooks can hopefully provide. That Chuba Hubbard, I just don't think has the same ability to provide on as consistent of a basis is what I'm trying to say. So I think Jonathon Brooks, there's enough, I don't want to say ambiguity, but to me, is Chuba Hubbard good enough of a player to keep Jonathon Brooks off the football field and remind everyone of how explosive he is? No. And I think this could be a very similar Javonte Williams scenario to last season, where if things do fall Jonathon Brooks' way, people are less confident in him because of his early injury history. And we're looking at Jonathon as potentially a borderline top 12 guy this year. Again, should the chips fall his way if the Panthers decide they get a little bit wishy-washy on what Chuba Hubbard can actually provide them.
Yeah, I mean, the wishy-washy is definitely there because that was there last year with Rico Dowdle. Obviously, Rico had a couple great games, which played into that. But the fact that Chuba, got hurt, had flirted with a couple games around 50% snap share, but then most of them are under 40%, shows, hey, we don't care that we gave him the money, the bag. We're going to start whoever we think's best. Jonathon Brooks, and like I said, I talked about him in a positive way. I do think you can, but I also think Ty brought it up earlier about Skattebo. Jonathon Brooks could be one of those guys where we get a couple training camp videos this year that he looks good, and we are way overdrafting, way too in on Jonathon Brooks because I mean it has been a long time since he's played an extended amount of football, and he's 2 ACLs removed from really the last time we saw him. So there is a lot of his floor is 0. Like the running back 10th out, he could be that again.
That's the floor
very easily. But like you said, there, I see the path. It's just we have no idea what he's going to look like on the field, right? You're going off pedigree, you're going off what we knew about him, and what we're kind of hoping he can get back to, which again isn't a great argument. But at running back 37, it's okay to go off of that because you're wrong. You're going to be wrong about 9 out of 10 guys in this range and drop them anyways. So you might as well shoot for the guy that, hey, if he comes out and looks good, has a true path to be, a top 12 guy.
And similarly, I do think this all depends on what kind of a step forward the Carolina Panthers offense does take this season, Ty, which again, it honestly might come down to that and what kind of a role Chuba Hubbard actually ends up playing this year, even despite, again, seeing Rico Dowdle take a hold of this backfield for a good chunk of last year.
Yeah.
You're just not interested.
How do I say this? I don't want to.
We're delusional and stupid, and you're
I hate Jonathon
dumb.
Brooks as
you're dumb. I'm smart.
Player. I don't want him to succeed. That's pretty much what I'm saying.
You guys said it. You guys are the ones that said it. I think what I can take away right now about Jonathon Brooks, because I am not going to draw the conclusion that Jonathon Brooks is going to be a major piece of this Carolina offense just after OTAs.
100%.
But what I can say is that all the talk about Jonathon Brooks and his ability in the receiving game does make me consider, right? It just makes me wonder, what are the chances that, good play after good play after good play gets rewarded for Jonathon Brooks, and Chuba Hubbard is just going to set it 4 yards of carry, and Dave Canales just goes, you know what? Let's
create explosives. Get on the field.
Right. So I will wait to make my final decision on Jonathon Brooks until we get to training camp, and that's when we will really see exactly what Carolina has planned for Jonathon Brooks. But again, at the moment, I'm at my curiosity is piqued at this point of just okay, if they're willing to experiment, if they're willing to stick with the guy after, injury after injury, maybe I need to pay attention a little more rather than just kind of scoffing at it and blowing it off and just saying that nothing's going to come out of this.
And this is why the show is called Running Backs Who Could Be the Next Breakout RB1. This is not a predictions video saying they 100% will, but we are exploring the upside, the contingent upside here of all these players as to how they could finish top 12 in fantasy football this season. Before we wrap up the show here, want to give a word to you all that things might look different around our parts here for the next month plus, I'll say. TBD. We're still kind of figuring out as we go, but Cameron, you have something big coming up here. I want to make sure we gave you space to share what this season of life brings you.
Yeah. I've mentioned it at least one time, but baby Lawrence is coming any day. So we could be on the pod on Thursday. We could not. So we don't know when the end is going to be, but it will be at the end of this week for sure for a little bit. And depending how things go will depend, how often I'm back on the pod, back on short form. So we're playing it by ear, and luckily these two are flexible enough for me that we can. So, but yeah, we're very excited. And yeah, we'll just be gone for a little bit, not too long.
At some point he's gonna be ready to get back on the mic and start talking fantasy football. Profusely sending dynasty trades is only going to keep him occupied for so long. No, obviously we've talked about this, the three of us, and we all have agreed. Being a father is much more important than being on the show on a regular basis, being on our short form on a regular basis. So the least we can do is make sure all the gaps are filled while Cam is gone. Being a father, being one of the most taking on one of the most important roles a man could take on in his life. So yes, obviously we wish nothing but all the best for you as you and Emily are waiting for baby Lawrence to come into the world, and especially as you all into your first weeks, months here into parenthood as well. So nothing will change structurally. Ty and I will still be holding down the fort here, but we'll just be missing the man in the middle of your screen a bit more often over the next month plus here, depending on how the timeline shakes out. But make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell as well to keep in touch with all of our content throughout the off season here. Again, we're posting 2 times a week throughout the off season. We'll up that to 3 times come August as well, to make sure you are fully prepared for your drafts. If you want to check out our other content as well, where starting in July, we're up in that to pretty much every single day you're going to be getting a piece of content as we ramp up towards the regular season. FFL is over on Twitter. The FFL is over on Instagram. Fantasy Football Fellas on Facebook and TikTok. If you're on YouTube, through and through, we got a channel for you over there as well. Fantasy Football Fellas Shorts. And if you want to follow our personal socials, Matt Lucas Wenzel on X, Camlaw FFF for Cameron, Tyler _Plath for Ty. We'll be back later this week. We're going to do the same exercise. It might be all 3 of us. It might just be Ty and I. I might play hooky, and it might just be Ty later this week. No, I kid. We'll be back later this week. He's like, you freaking jerk. We'll be back later. You want to rebuttal quick? You're giving me the puzzled look.
I think I'm going to be sick that day. I think I have a cough scheduled at like 8 in the morning. So I might be iffy on that one.
I might wake up with a raspy voice, a little bit of a sore throat. It might sound like death that day. We'll see. No, we'll be back.
Might sound like Lucas last week.
Well, there you go.
Oh my gosh, brother! I am so sorry I missed out on last week. I thought I died last week. We'll talk to you all later this week. We'll flip the script for wide receivers. Deuces.
Deuces.